Hi everyone, my name is Elaine, and today I'm going to be both summarizing and reviewing the 16th book in Terry Pratchett's Discworld series, Soul Music. Starting with the summary. Susan Stowe Hellett, daughter of Mort and Isabel, is a student at a boarding school in Quirm who has acquired some of Death's powers, like the ability to make people forget about her when she wants them to. She is informed by her headmistress, Miss Butts, that her parents died in a carriage accident. The headmistress is discomforted by Susan's lack of crying. Imp, a bard from Lamitos, gets into a fight with his father about his chosen profession. His words, "You don't know anything, you're just a stupid old man. But I'm giving my life to music. One day soon everyone will say I was the greatest musician in the world," leads him to spend time outside in the rain, and the sudden arrival of an old musical instrument shop in Ankh-Morpork, which most people are convinced has always been there. That's on page 10. Death is upset by the deaths of Mort and Isabel. After visiting a holy man and asking him how to forget, Death sends Binky away and says, "I may be some time," before wandering off. That's on page 23. Imp makes his way to the Ankh-Morpork Guild of Musicians and meets Glod Glotson, a dwarf who plays a bronze horn, and Laius Bluestone, a troll who makes music from rocks. The musicians discover that they can't afford to pay the exorbitant fees Mr. Cleet, the guild's secretary, says are required to gain entry into the Guild of Musicians. The musicians decide to raise the money they need for guild entry by playing gigs in secret throughout the city. Laius accidentally sits on Imp's harp, destroying it. The musicians visit the musical instrument shop and purchase a guitar for Imp and a drum, cymbals, and a pile of sheet music for Laius with one of Laius's diamond teeth. Susan is visited by the death of Rats and his raven. She is informed that her grandfather is gone again and asked to come with the skeletal rat. She doesn't. Binky arrives at Susan's school and takes 16-year-old Susan to Death's estate where she finds Albert. Albert tells her that your grandfather is Death. You rode in on his horse, and this is his house. Only he's gone away, to think things over or something. What I reckon's happening is that you're being sucked in. It's in the bone. You're old enough now. There's a hole and it thinks you're the right shape. I don't like it any more than you do. That's on page 88. Susan is invited to stay at the estate. After barely any practice, the band formed by Imp, Laius, and Glod play at the mended drum. It doesn't go well. Susan takes on Death's role in her grandfather's stead. A riot erupts at the drum. Susan arrives to collect Imp, someone she finds both attractive and familiar. The drum's atmosphere changes dramatically when Imp starts playing. His music seems to have a hypnotic quality. Imp's hourglass runs out. There's no outward sign he should be dead. After the show, Imp realizes that his guitar isn't normal, that it has the ability to play itself. The band is invited to play at the drum again. Laius changes his name to Cliff, and Imp takes Buddy since his name means of the holly. Both musicians feel as though the names are better suited to the business than their original names. Buddy is tired after having played the guitar and can't get music out of his head or his body. He keeps tapping his feet, etc. Susan and the Death of Rats inspect Imp's lifetimer. The sand had run out, but something else had filled the top and was pouring through the pinch. It was pale blue and coiling in frantically on itself, like excited smoke. That's on page 131. Neither Susan nor the Death of Rats know what's going on, but Susan realizes that history has been altered and that something other than herself didn't want Imp to die. She had wanted to step in and stop Imp's death at the drum, but she hadn't done so. A number of the university's wizards, like the librarian and lecturer in recent runes, had attended the band's show and suddenly become musical. They bang knives on various kitchen items, for example. Glod recruits a librarian to play the pianoforte for the band. They're hoping it'll enhance their sound. Susan rides Binky into the past to speak with her grandfather. She shows him Imp's lifetimer. Death explains that Imp has rhythm in his soul on page 163. It is keeping him alive, making his life longer. Death believes the problem will solve itself. The new band decides to call itself the Band with Rocks In. Their show at the drum goes well, but still manages to cause a riot. Ridcully realizes their music is alive. The death of Rats and his raven informs Susan that she can't kill the music without killing Buddy. She wonders why it would kill its host if it's a parasite, what it wants him for, why it's using him. The original band members signed a contract with Dibbler. The librarian had run away, left the band before it had a chance to become famous. Susan reads the book of Imp's life. He was meant to have died in the drum. Its contents were true, but reality was lying. And from the moment of Imp's death, the book had begun writing music, several pages of staves. She realizes it's important for her to save Imp as opposed to the music. Several more Ankh-Morporkians than usual buy guitars. Dibbler begins managing the band and finds them another gig in a troll dive. Rock music continues to go around. The band discovers that Dibbler has signed another band up for their concert to warm it up. Before the band goes on stage to save the failing show, Buddy gets Dibbler to agree to let them play a free show. Buddy feels music should be free, and Dibbler agrees to the show reluctantly, but realizes it'll be okay because he can make a good amount of money off food and merchandising. The band show goes really well. Dibbler announces that they're going to go on tour. Cliff and Glod talk about how they feel like they're being played. They go out on stage without knowing what they're going to play, but when Buddy starts, they know how to respond. They want to stop, but Buddy convinces them to keep going. The band is exhausted after the show, but have to play an encore. Mr. Cleet sends a group of enforcers after the band because they're disobeying guild rules while playing without being members. Susan comes for the enforcers. Cliff and Glod talk about how Buddy acts like a zombie when they're not performing, barely saying anything. They wonder how they could destroy the cause, the guitar. Cliff and Glad speak to the woman who sold them Buddy's guitar. She says the guitar had always been in her shop and doesn't know who brought it in. There's a number 1 chalked on it. Glad makes another purchase. Susan visits Buddy to warn him about the guitar, that playing it will kill him. Buddy doesn't take her seriously. Susan promises she'll see him again. Glad and Cliff wonder who owned Buddy's guitar originally. The Arch-Chancellor, Ponder, and some of the university students summon Susan Death with the right of Ashkente to ask her about the music. She's not always sure of her answers to their questions, but feels the music is alive, once lived in one instrument but is moving around now, isn't sure it can be killed, isn't sure it should be here but feels like it arrived by accident, doesn't feel the disc is the proper world for it, and doesn't think they can stop it because it's not susceptible to magic. After Susan departs, the Arch-Chancellor is frustrated further by how the music is making everyone act peculiarly. For example, the Dean had hammered himself a new pair of trousers and painted his room black. After joining the Clatchian Foreign Legion fails him, Death tries to drink to forget. Several new bands have formed. Dibbler invites him to play at the free festival he's organizing, regardless of their talent or lack thereof, and at several other locations around Ankh-Morpork. The band sets out on their tour. Susan rescues them from a pair of assassins sent by Mr. Cleet. Death tries being a beggar out. The death of Rats and his raven inform Albert that they have not been able to find Death and that Susan saved Buddy. Albert is not happy and promises to sort everything out. The death of Rat senses sand when he thinks of Death. Albert looks for him at the Clatchian Foreign Legion and discovers that he's already gone. While on tour, the band performs for crowds of their adoring fans. Their hypnotic music, however, often causes riots which get them thrown out of town. The death of Rats and Albert try the drum, but Death is no longer there. A thief named Timo Lazyman knocks Albert out, breaking his lifetimer in the fall. The band returns to Ankh-Morpork. Glad picks something up before they make their way to the free festival in Hyde Park. Cliff and Glad present Buddy with his repaired harp. Buddy reminisces about the time he won it. Mr. Cleet and his contingent arrive at the free music festival. The band finally takes the stage. Susan is standing in a patch of emptiness nearby. Buddy opens with a song on his harp, a song from home, Sione Ba Da. Then he begins playing his guitar for his adoring crowd of fans. Mr. Cleet's enforcer, Mr. Satchelmouth, tries to shoot Buddy, but Ricully breaks his crossbow with magic. When they're done playing, the band runs off the stage and gets into the cart they've been using for travel. They set out on the road. Death rescues Albert. He has less than a minute of time remaining. Albert tells him what's going on. After the band fails to return to the stage, the frustrated crowd storms it. Dibbler, Susan, Death, and the Musicians Guild pursue the band. Buddy casts the guitar away. He and the band are rescued from an unfortunate cart accident by Susan. The music attempts to rewrite events to kill the band since Buddy accomplished his goal and will be remembered forever for his songs, even those he never played. Death appears and plays an empty chord on Buddy's guitar, which he had retrieved, slowing the music to a stop. Death throws the guitar to Buddy, who restarts the music when he plays the guitar. His action also saves the band's lives. When Buddy is finished playing his single chord, Death destroys the guitar. In the new version of reality, Mr. Cleet is the only one who dies. His heart goes over the edge of a cliff. Death returns Susan to her school. She kisses him on the top of his head before departing. Death returns to his work. It appears that Buddy works at the shop in 3 Roses Alley in this timeline. Susan rushes into town to see him. And that's the end of the book. And now on to my book review. I didn't like this book very much. I felt it was often slow and didn't enjoy the subject matter. It just wasn't very exciting. There were also a lot of typos which detracted from the flow of the prose and made the novel feel even longer. Furthermore, Mr. Cleet's laugh was really, really annoying. Hat, hat, hat. This book also raised a few important questions. First, if Laius has diamond teeth, why didn't he use one to pay for entry into the Guild of Musicians? He used one to pay for the instruments and sheet music at the shop and to repair Buddy's harp. It just doesn't make any sense. Second, why didn't Albert recognize Susan immediately? She has very distinctive features like pure white hair with a black streak. Even with the time that has passed since he last saw her, it just doesn't make sense. Third, why did Albert bring his lifetimer with him when he left Death's estate? He knew how much time he had left, and it seems like a good way to ensure the thing gets broken. At least the odds are increasing in a way that doesn't favor the old wizard. I also felt as though the novel contained a few inconsistencies. On page 10, the old musical instrument shop appears in Ankh-Morpork. No one remarked on its arrival. As soon as it appeared, it had always been there. But on page 26, Colin questions its presence. He asked, "Was it there for years yesterday?" It's as though the magic surrounding the shop can be broken by certain people, and it makes me wonder what the rules regarding this occurrence are. Overall, I gave this book a 2 out of 5 star rating. It was definitely not Pratchett's best work. Before I close, I just want to make a few points clear in case they're not clear. Basically, the Guild of Musicians and a lot of the other guilds in Ankh-Morpork try to contain the people who take part in their chosen profession or their trade in order to help the city run more smoothly. So basically, Cleet is very upset that the band is playing without being members of the guild because they're not following its rules, they're not members, and therefore they're breaking the guild's monopoly on the specific trade. And also, because they're not members, they get to charge charge lower rates than guild members. So this could take away their business, and Cleet very much is not happy with this. It's not allowing for the proper conduct of the city, or rather like the maintenance of the order within the city, and again, breaking the monopoly that the guild holds over music. At the end of the novel, 2 realities or 2 timelines are created after Buddy restarts time with his music. In one timeline, it's the one that we basically follow throughout this length of this book, where he goes to Inkmorepork and he meets Cliff and he meets Glod and they form a band, and everything that we see happens. But in this second reality, basically, he never goes to Inkmorepork, he being Imp, and the band never forms, and he winds up in Quirm, and that is where Susan meets him, and that's why he seemed so familiar to her. That's why she knew him at first sight and felt that sort of connection and attraction to, in some regard. And this original timeline, only death, I'm assuming the death of Rats as well, is an extension of death. And Susan remembered that original timeline with the musicians forming this band and all the stuff that happened afterwards. And there you have it. That is my summary and review of Terry Pratchett's Soul Music. If you like what you saw here today, please smash that like button until it's blue. Leave a comment down below. Let me know not only what you thought, but what you think about this book. Subscribe, ring that bell so you know what's up, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye, guys.